Hello everybody, it's Markiplier, and welcome back to a Death Battle Prediction. Today we're looking at Sauron versus the Lich King, and we're of course joined by someone you probably don't know. Say hello.
Everybody, my name is Windindi, and welcome to the prediction video. First of all, very hyped to be here. This is crazy. I honestly thought my time to shine would have been Chaos versus Kyogre, or even more so, Larry Boy versus Bible Man. But nope, it's Lord of the Rings, baby. And
Let's
Voldemort,
go.
come, let's go!
Yeah.
Haha, so happy about this. Happy to be here. Happy to talk to everybody. And oh boy, y'all need to sit your asses down because this is going to be a very, very heated discussion. I know a lot of people are very passionate about both of these franchises, which is a shame because in the Death Battle community, I've seen a lot of reactions. Everybody's like, who are these two?
Who the
And that
hell
just
is
made me really.
Sauron? Is he that
Yeah, he has
pterosaur
no
from
feet.
Marvel Comics?
Yeah, it's like what?
It's funny, Sauron, I think,
Oh boy.
Sauron, I'm pretty sure, is one of the oldest characters Death Battle have ever used. He debuted in
Yes,
1939 with The Hobbit.
that is correct. That is
I believe
absolutely
he was
correct.
technically still, he was just the necromancer, really, in terms of his, like, presence in the narrative. But which of course
Correct.
means that people saying that Sauron Lich King is not a battle of necromancers kind of confuses me when they argue that, considering he's literally just called the necromancer.
There's a lot of mix and matches here and there with this, and I, as someone who's a fan of both characters, I'm not gonna lie, I am more versed with Lord of the Rings than World of Warcraft. So I'm really hoping that I don't fuck up any information. I apologize to any like hardcore Tolkien fans out there if I say something wrong or something like that. I'm gonna be talking to a general audience who may not understand the context of these characters. So I'm gonna joke around a little bit, have some fun with this, make sure people have a better understanding of both characters, while also giving as much of accurate information as possible.
I think already there are people angry. It's like it's pronounced Sauron, not Sauron. But like, there are
Yeah,
already going to be people upset.
I
Just be glad we're
I
not calling
remember
him
I
the Lychee King, okay?
the Lion King. Yeah, the Lion King. Simba. Um, all right. Um, okay, so disclaimer to everybody. I I've had to spend a lot of time on both these characters, especially as of recently. I kind of predicted that Arthas would be Sauron's opponent, so I'm glad I called that right. And I've had to talk to a lot of people, and I have a few things that I'm gonna do regarding this matchup because there are a lot of questions regarding like how this battle is gonna be. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of look at every single scenario possible. And before anybody asks about certain things, don't worry. I think a lot of the major questions that people have about this fight will be answered as in terms of feats and whatnot. But I'm gonna do my best to keep it generalized. So, for example, there are a lot of vague things about Lord of the Rings and what comes out of the Silmarillion. I like to give a shout out to J.R.R. Tolkien. Shout outs to you, buddy.
Yeah, for making it and basically kickstarting the modern high fantasy genre of fictional
Yeah, no
storytelling.
kidding. Yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien, what a legend. And I also want to thank. Well, actually, wait, is that would it be a bad thing to thank Blizzard for anything right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're
And
right.
I would
I'll
like to
just
thank
say,
Blizzard for fucking nothing because you guys stink. But the Lich King is cool, so
yeah. Actually, a little fun fact. I remember I was having a conversation with people about the Lich King recently because people were talking about Blizzard and Activision being bought out by Xbox. And I said, if Arthas is not a character in Killer Instinct, I'm gonna be so mad. He would fit right along with every single other character. It's like, come on, do it.
I can see it. Yeah, he's got like the same sort of like vibe.
Yes, and oh man, I'm sorry. I'm just like fangazzing right now because I cannot believe this is a real match. But okay, I think enough is enough, and I feel like we should begin. But first, Nemesis, do you have an idea as to who we should start with? Sauron or Arthas?
I think when it comes to Warcraft, to my knowledge, the feats are at least a little bit more blatant than with Lord of the Rings. Because with Lord of the Rings, and especially an unfinished book like the Silmarillion, there's a lot more vagueness to it because it was written in a way that's probably a bit more evocative of like those old Arthurian legend than what Warcraft does. So I feel like you might want to start with Sauron because there'd probably be more to talk about with the actual high tier stuff.
Okay, sure thing. Well, first of all, I think one of the biggest questions on everybody's mind is does Sauron scale to universal level? Like, did he create the universe?
I don't think anyone's arguing that he made the universe. I think it's.
You'd be surprised. I've seen, yes.
Because there
have been many people.
Not to derail, but from what I recall, the big arguments for universal Sauron was scaling to something related to a song that it's been so long since I've read the Silmarillion, I would not remember, and certain of the Aina, or however it's pronounced, having like dominion over like portions of the universe, and like Sauron upscaling above them. Like that's, and the Maya and stuff. Like that's what I know most from, and of course scaling to Eru for some reason.
So, to clear that out of the way right now, I have read the Silmarillion. This is what it says. So, it's very vague as to if how much of a contribution Sauron had in that. He did exist when that occurred. So Sauron has indeed existed before the creation of Middle-earth, and he was around during the time of its creation. We do not know if he had any contributions to the song. There are many claims saying he did, some that didn't. So for the sake of argument's sake, I'm not going to include any of that. And the reason why is because it's very vague. Nothing in the Silmarillion or otherwise supports that he has this level of power as a mortal. And with death battle rules, they like to look at things very clear. So things like godlyhood, are very, very touchy. So for the sake of this argument, I'm not saying that Sauron is in any way universal. And this is just an assumption, and people can debate this in the comments if they seriously want to, but from my perspective, we're not going to scale him to any of that. At least that part. Because the Silmarillion is very unclear as to his contributions. And plus, even if he did, the Valar and the other worldly beings are totally different than that of mortals of Middle-earth. And we all know that unless your name is Tom Bombadil, you're not stacking that high. Sorry. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Everyone loves a good Tom Bombadil joke. Everyone loves Tom Bombadil.
He's a Chad. Alrighty. So obviously Sauron not scaling to that, but I think I should explain the story of Sauron first, because the Silmarillion goes over quite a bit about him. So there are 3 versions of Sauron, this is the part where people are gonna start scratching their heads, but I'm gonna do my best to explain. So, excuse me, in Lord of the Rings, or excuse me, more accurately, the Ages of Middle Earth, there are three ages, and Sauron has existed for all three. And in the first age, I believe, partly because it's a bit touchy there, what had the most abilities. So during this time, Sauron was among those who were sent during the First War on Middle Earth. And during this time, he aligned himself with the greatest of evils, and he basically pulled a Darth Sidious on them. And he's like, hey, 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 I'm evil now. And, um, putting it in the funniest terms. But over time, Sauron has done a lot during the First Age and in the Second Age, but we'll get to Second Age stuff later. So Sauron was well known for his fire, for his creation of fire, his manipulation of certain fires. He was also very well known for his magics, and at the time in the First Age, he actually could transform. So, believe it or not, he was the Lord of the Werewolves. Eat your heart out, John Talbane and Saberwolf.
Well, they're just werewolves. They're not like lords of the werewolf species.
Oh, I know. I'm just being silly. But yeah. So he was a werewolf. He was a well, what most people know him as now, and he was also a vampire. Yes, that's real. And a serpent. So he had those four forms. And during First Age, Sauron actually went around corrupting many places. He went around in wars. He participated alongside many, many battles. And listing them all would just take all day, so we're not going to do that. If you want to go look up all the wars he's participated in, do that yourself. These wars are going to play a big part into his scaling and his feats. So don't worry, we will get into that. But what the general audience needs to know is that Sauron began as innocently as it came until he decided to become evil. He pulled a deceivingness on his master, whose name, for God's sake, I can't remember right now. Sorry. And basically, he became the greatest evil known to Middle Earth. And he lasted for a stupidly long time. And boy, there's a lot to discuss. So, First Age Sauron, I think a lot of people are wondering, what about the Ring of Power? Where does that come into place? So, a lot of people associate Sauron with the One Ring. And the One Ring was created in the fires of Mount Doom. And there's a little subtext there. And what happened is that Sauron, to become more powerful than any mortal on Middle Earth, infused his will and soul into the One Ring, making it the most powerful artifact that Middle Earth has ever known. Oh boy, the ring is nuts. The power scaling of the ring is absolutely bizarre. It's because there's no clear definitive as to how powerful, because it's never exclusively because obviously, J.R.R. Tolkien never said, oh, well, this is how I'm going to power scale things. However, we actually do have a very good clue as to how powerful Sauron is with the One Ring. So let's get into that. This is going to be fun. With the One Ring, Sauron has clearly been shown to be extremely powerful, obviously. He has the powers of being able to manipulate other people, telepathy, be able to create all these different goodness me, I'm getting lost in check. Okay, but what you got to know is that Sauron, as with the ring, he's able to will his evil amongst all. He's able to create storms. He's able to control the Mount Doom to exploit darkness for his armies. And actually, with the One Ring, he was capable of, goodness me, wow. I again, fighting many wars. Yeah, see what I mean? This stuff gets really confusing when you dive deep into it. But, so how powerful is the ring? Well, and this is going to be a really fun topic because there have been people saying things like, "Oh, well, can't the ring just be destroyed?" Well, if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, you know that the ring cannot be destroyed.
Who's saying that? That's the whole point of Lord of the Ring, is that you can't. Also, I think we're moving into the Second Age now, right? I think because
yes, Second Age Sauron. For sure.
Yeah, because he forged the One Ring during the Second Age. Like that was the big kicking off point for that.
Right. And sorry if I keep skipping over a few things, but there's going to be a lot of jumping back and forth with Sauron.
Almost nobody watching this has ever read any of the books. I don't think they're even going to notice if you skip around certain things.
Yeah, so sorry for the semi-confusing thing. Tried to make it funny. I had way too much information, and... Okay.
And nobody here even knows who Melkor is.
That is... Yeah. Okay, so that was it. All right. Anyway, so
is that what you were talking to with his master?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Melkor / Morgoth. Yeah.
That's right. I'm sorry.
I thought you were talking about the fucking forger guy, the guy who made like Melkor's chains.
No, I don't believe that was him. No.
Okay, so you were talking about Morgoth, all right?
Yes. Okay, and speaking of Morgoth, and this is something that we can definitely say right from the get-go, is that in terms of the ring's power as well as Sauron's, Gandalf has actually stated just how powerful the ring is in the hands of Sauron, and just the ring itself. Good lord, but. Gandalf has stated that some of the most powerful dragon, I forget his names, like Archelaus or whatever.
And Calagon the Black.
Calagon, yes, and Calagon the Black, and Calagon, I can't say it. Had a long day, but and Calagon the Black, according to Gandalf himself, is the most powerful dragon ever known on Middle Earth, and this is going to be important because Sauron scales far above him. So this dragon not only was like, oh god, here we go. So Sauron, the dragon, right? His fires are more powerful than a normal dragon. So like imagine Smaug, right? A lot of people knew that he could destroy cities on a whim, right? Whatever. But this dragon ain't no ordinary dragon. This dragon served the Dark Lord, and this dragon was out to destroy the world.
He's also huge.
Yes, absurdly huge. You know what Gandalf said? His fires would have had no effect on the One Ring. So even with all his power, he wouldn't have been able to damage the ring at all. So to anyone wondering, oh, well, can't you just throw it in fire and the ring is destroyed? No. No, that's not how that works.
It's got to be extremely potent.
Yeah. I have a little theory about that, which is I think Mount Doom has some sort of magical element behind it that makes the whole thing.
As you said, Sauron manipulated Mount Doom and got more than just fire out of it. So realistically, it's more than just fire. It's specifically what's going on within Mount Doom that allows it to destroy the One Ring.
Correct. And speaking of the dragon that we were just talking about, the Black.
And Calagon.
Thank you. So his greatest feat One of which is challenging this ghost-like ship called. It starts with the letter V. Good lord, I can't.
Oh god, we mentioned it in the chat. Back when he was announced. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh man, what was that ship's name? But basically, I'll call it the ghost ship until we get a name. But basically, this ship is so fast. Its main purpose was to sail to the Undying Lands and back to Middle Earth.
The Vingalore.
The Vangalore. Thank you. So the Vangalore, as a ship, is fast enough to quote unquote travel through the stars and back within a single day. And the crazy thing is, there was someone who had the balls to fight the dragon that we were just mentioning. Good God, I can't think of his name. But
was it
basically
Earendil? Was it Earendil?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Basically, the two actually battled each other, and of course, the black died. The dragon died, and just by so what in the world does all of this mean? So we know for a fact that just with that statement alone, that would put both of those things at FTL speeds, basically faster than light plus possibly.
Yeah.
We don't exactly know what like how far he traveled. We just know traveled through the stars and back again. I mean, that's pretty darn fast. And the dragon was able to keep up with that. And the funniest thing, too, is that upon his death, the dragon's death, he actually destroyed an entire mountain.
I think he destroyed an entire mountain range.
Equivalent.
It was a mountain range.
Yeah.
He fell, hit the ground, and his wingspan was so big, it just collapsed the mountain ranges beneath it.
Yes.
He's a big boy!
He's a big boy. And I think somebody mentioned that his fire, something about his fires. I know obviously they were stronger than normal dragons. I just don't remember to what extent. But we do know that in several battles, dragons similar to him, again, more powerful than Smaug, were actually used as basically like war dogs chained to Balrogs, and Balrogs are stupid powerful too. Stated to be basically like these hellish beings, and there's actually a part in the Silmarillion where I believe there was a pack of them that killed off one of the gods of Middle Earth, who supposedly created the stars. So there's also that to go off of. However, I think with Sauron himself, and mind you, Sauron is more powerful than Balrogs and the dragon we just mentioned. But currently, in regards to like power feats, the best thing that I've been able to find so far in regards to Sauron is that he was able to destroy a sword that contained a Cimmerel. What the heck is a Cimmerel? Well, a Cimmerel is basically an artifact that contains, and I quote, an unknown amount of stars.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what that means. I don't know. I don't know.
Jesus.
Whatever the hell that means.
I completely forgot about that. I'm just going to be honest.
A lot of people did. And I remember I found it, and I'm like, hey guys, remember this?
Yeah.
Like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, to explain Sauron's powers, so, with the One Ring, he is able to manipulate those who had control over other powerful rings of Middle Earth. as told, there were 7 given to the dwarves, 9 to the elves, and several to men. I
No,
don't remember the
it
number.
was
Come at me.
3 to the elves, 7 for the dwarves, 9 for men. The men obviously being the fucking Nazgul.
Right.
And
that is
the
correct.
3 elves, Galadriel was one of them.
That's correct.
Was it Elrond?
I think Elrond was one of them.
Yeah. And, I forget the third. And then the dwarves, they're all dead, so no one cares about them.
Ouch. Gimli's feelings are hurt. You didn't have to do that to Gimli.
Well, I mean, he's a dwarf. He
Yeah.
He doesn't count. He's off there saving the world. He hasn't got time to be worried.
But did you see that first scene? I'm mine. I'm mine.
Yes, I have seen the films, and I have read the books, and I've watched the Bastion.
I know.
And I've played the Lord of the Rings Lego game, which is one of the best Lego games. Easy. It's so good.
Is it? I've yet to play it.
It's really good and fun. But you get all of Middle Earth to like run around. At least all that are featured in the Lord of the Rings story. And obviously it's smaller than you might think, because it's all in Lego, right? It's a Lego game. It can't be huge.
Right.
But you do get to like travel to like all the areas. They're all interconnected. You can there's this one item called the Mithril Disco Vial that's like the best thing in the world.
What? That's hilarious.
Because there are certain points in the game where in the story mode the character will have the one ring on, so the whole thing will get all wispy. In free play, you can't change characters. You have to be playing as one with the one ring. But as a result, they have the mithril items, which any character can use, that can utilize any ability in the game. So you buy the mithril disco vial, and let's say you haven't got Sting, so you can't light up a dark cave, but you bring up the mithril disco vial, and it'll light up the cave, and you can walk in.
Sick. That actually sounds fun. I need to make a note of
You should
that.
definitely play it.
Yeah, I'll put that down on my list.
Don't play Lego Hobbit, though.
All right.
It's completely missing out part 3, and they never went back to update it.
Yeah. Why did they even need a part 3? Why did they need a part 1 and a part 2?
I don't know.
I blame Warner
You
Brothers.
could fill that book in a single film.
For real. All right, back to Sauron. So his powers contain soul manipulation through the power of the One Ring, as we just mentioned, the Nazgul, for instance.
Yeah.
And then he also geological manipulation, as stated. He was able to control the weather and be able to cover Mordor in total darkness, and it's stated he would have done the same to the entire world. So I think it's very safe to assume that Sauron can do that. But it is sort of guesstimating, but I think it's a fair assessment.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. The third ring, Gil-galad, and Gandalf has it.
Yes, Gandalf was given a ring.
Yeah,
but it was a gift.
It's revealed at the end of Lord of the Ring, I think. Frodo notices he wears the third ring on his hand, like, I had this the whole time, bitch!
Yeah.
Yes, it's Galadriel, Elrond, and Gil-galad, then Gandalf. I think Gil-galad had Elrond's ring first, too, which meant Gil-galad had 2 rings of power at one point.
Right.
But he's a total fucking Chad, so that's expected.
That is true.
Anyway,
Speaking of Gandalf and rings, there is something very important to note. Very important to note. In one of Tolkien's letters, a fan asked, how come Gandalf didn't have the One Ring? Why didn't he take it? And, believe it or not, Tolkien actually created a what-if story in a letter as to how that would have went down.
I did not know that.
It is revealed.
I'm not versed in the letters.
Yeah, well, surprise, surprise, here I am. But basically, according to him, Gandalf would have killed Sauron with the One Ring. So he would have had enough power to do so. However, his heart, his will, and his soul would have over time become corrupted, and he would have become the next Sauron. The same thing would have happened to Galadriel, And the same thing would have happened to, well, many powerful beings in Middle-earth. Unless you're Tom Bombadil, because of course...
Yeah, basically any of the really strong characters. Like we saw
Right.
that we saw that sort of happening with Saruman, and he didn't even have the ring. He was being corrupted, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's correct.
So like Gandalf would have become a more powerful one.
Yeah, and mind you, even when he was resurrected, Gandalf the White was still not powerful enough to defeat Sauron, and we're talking about the weakest form of Sauron. But then again, it wasn't his place to put Sauron to an end. He was just there. He was tasked as a means to, lead the hearts of men to the battle. So, very interesting stuff. But imagine that. Gandalf with the One Ring would have been more powerful than just him as he ended up being, which was Gandalf the White. So that should tell you guys just how powerful the One Ring is. You do not want to underestimate the One Ring.
Yeah, it might not immediately seem so, because, like, in the story, more focuses on the One Ring's corruptive abilities as opposed to raw power.
Yeah. And, to anyone who still doesn't know what the ring says, I gotta say this. One ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness bind them. And it does exactly that.
Awesome. On that note, the track name, I'm really getting a kick out of the track name being just To Rule Them All.
Yes, that would be sick.
That goes so hard as just the track name.
Yes. All right. And then what else do we have for Sauron here? Let me think. Oh, right. So, this one's kind of debatable. However, there's been arguments here and there about this. But Sauron may have auto-resurrection. Specifically First Age Sauron and Second Age Sauron. Because we do know for a fact that Sauron, despite what happened to him... Actually, before I get into that, fun fact, the reason why he lost was because the gods literally decided, oh no, he's an SS tier, we gotta nerf him. So the gods straight up nerfed him, which was pretty funny. And that also comes from one of Tolkien's letters, I believe. I know that sounds dumb, but I promise you that's actually one of the explanation. But anyway... so the context of auto-resurrection comes from the fact that upon Sauron's supposed demise, he never actually died. His soul and his will, of course, continued with the One Ring. And, of course, the Eye of Sauron was practically an immediate thing. Like, the whole splitting apart into different things.
Right, should we bring up the difference between the book Eye and the movie Eye?
If you want to, sure.
Because, like, I think
be
most people know the movie, and they think the Eye of Sauron is just literally a big lizard eye on a tower. From what I remember in the book, the Eye of Sauron is more of like a sigil that is on people, and it has plenty of abilities, but it's not just a giant eye that stands out like a turd in a punch bowl, just right there. Everyone can see it. You're a mile away. You're gonna see that fucker.
Right. God, actually, you just reminded me how it should have ended short. I will never get over that. Like the Sauron, and they're just yelling at him, and he stares down. And he's like, "You suck," and they're like distracting him while they're blinding people.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh God, good times. But in the First Age and Second Age, Sauron apparently, and according to the Silmarillion, was able to come back with a simple thought. The problem is, I don't believe the story details how fast it was. And of course, given Death Battle, I think they may ignore this. I don't know.
They may just assume that because there's no given time frame, it's more reasonable to assume that it would occur after the fight's conclusion. So it wouldn't have to take too long. They might put it in the corner. I would be surprised.
I think so.
Because I think there have been other times where he's died and then come back, but it was like 1,000-year gap between the events. So
that's the interesting part. Yeah.
They might focus on that more.
Yeah, so there is a clear difference between that. So what was actually asleep for 1,000 years was his soul and his will within the One Ring. And the reason why that happened is because it was separated and lost to time, lost to anybody. And when Gollum had it, it started to slowly come back. However, just nowhere near as intense as it was. So, and speaking of which, before it got lost in the river, King Aradel, right? Aradel? I'm trying to get these names right because I've had to look at so many names.
Yeah, because Sauron's influence spans thousands of years, and Tolkien didn't bullshit around. He made characters for each time period and gave them plenty of significance. So it's like actually looking at human history, but if there was one figure across all of them.
Pretty much.
It goes to show just how immersive the world of Middle-earth really is, narratively. It's so well written.
Yep, and actually, the funny thing is that the king actually only had the ring for 2 years, and the ring basically willed his death. So the ring actually has a mind of its own, believe it or not.
Yeah.
There's some arguments to be had regarding how the ring would function, because some people claim that, well, what if the ring, because there's some people that say, well, if the ring found a more powerful host, then the ring will obey the stronger being, if there was a being more powerful than Sauron. Problem is, I have found no evidence of this, and if anyone else has, feel more than happy to show me. But first of all, this has never occurred, and secondly, I don't see how that would work, because there's no context for that.
The mind and control of the ring, the ring's conscience is just a piece of Sauron. It's just Sauron.
Yeah, it is.
So if theoretically we were to say it jumps to a different host, more powerful than Sauron, that would just be Sauron giving up his original form to take someone else's.
And like I mentioned before, that's exactly what would have happened to Gandalf if he had contained the ring, or Galadriel even, hell, anybody. And I feel like that alone is gonna be that's gonna be a pretty big factor in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just that alone. So what else does Sauron have? Sauron can telepathically talk to people. So in the video game The Shadow of Mordor, and I'm bringing up video games because I think it's only fair that we give both characters all mediums that are at least semi-comparable to their origins. So books, stuff like that, whatever. Books, movies, video games, etc. Now, of course, we can't add Lego in there. Sorry, buddy.
I don't think it'll matter.
Yeah, but in the video game Shadow of Mordor, Sauron has resistance to time manipulation. So he's able to move faster than I believe the character whose name I believe is Celebrimbor, that's it. Yep. Yay, I finally got a name right.
Woo.
So Celebrimbor has this thing called a focus mode, which slows down time, and Sauron is kind of unaffected by that. So that's one of the things I was actually taught not too long ago. So thanks, whoever gave me that knowledge. Of course, illusion magic, terror aura, stuff of that nature. And of course, like I said, shape-shifting has that. and and of course soul manipulation. So he was able to insert his own soul within the One Ring, and he was able to do stuff with souls before. Hence, he's a necromancer, so makes sense.
It is probably going to be important that if you were to like kill Sauron's like body, his soul isn't in there. That's not where his soul is anymore.
Nope.
So, and I think that's important.
At least part of it.
I think it's going to be important because one of the things with the Lich King, good transition, I guess, where Frostmourne eats souls. It's not really going to be able to do that if he just like cuts Sauron's head off.
Right.
He's not going to get much of a meal out of that.
Right. So what exactly? Let's move on to Arthas, because I think we've spent a lot on Sauron. So let's give Arthas a chance, shall we?
Definitely.
So, to anyone who's unfamiliar with Arthas, he is the most goated character in World of Warcraft. He actually apparently used to work at Blizzard. Go watch those videos, please. They're actually kind of funny. Despite I think half of the people or more of that in that video don't work there anymore. But as I was saying, so who is Arthas, right? Arthas was a prince of a kingdom within the realm of World of Warcraft.
His full name is Arthas Menethil, of course.
Thank you. Who, if I remember correctly, is a human. Is he human? I think he's human.
I think so. He's like Prince of Lordaeron or something. And
Lordaeron,
he was
I
like
believe
a paladin. He was a paladin.
Correct. And in the case of Arthas, let's see here. Oh, right. So basically, there was this thing called the plague. And Arthas feared that it would inevitably destroy the world, and more importantly, his kingdom, but, whatever. So he sought out to destroy this accursed plague. What had happened to him, though, was a twist of fate, as the power he sought to destroy became one with him. I wonder where the parallels lie there. But, I mean, ignoring that, he would become the one true Lich King. And if you guys know anything about that lore, there always must be a Lich King.
Yes,
also
what happened when he picked up Frostmourne.
And we're about to bring up Frostmourne. So Frostmourne is his cool looking sword. Honestly, I kind of wish this was at the Renaissance Fair. Really would love to pick this sucker up.
I would love a prop of the Frostmourne. That would be awesome.
Heck yeah, bro. So essentially, the Frostmourne is a two-handed mortar blade, which is a weapon in World of Warcraft, forged by the Runecrafter to aid the jailer in his conquest. However, as time would tell, this magical item landed in the hands of Arthas, which ended up corrupting him, and also this sword has a bunch of souls of those it has slain. So that's awesome to know. We're free real estate, right? Mm-hmm. And also, another really interesting thing is that Arthas's armor actually has some magical elements to it. So, of course, the helmet is the thing that puts the voices in his head. And his armor just has some general magical stuff to it. I think it's something regarding the blood of the old gods. It's composed with some magic or whatever. And I believe it gives him regeneration, some form of regeneration that allows him to, So onto his feats and whatnot, because there's a lot to go over. Again, just like Sauron, there's a lot of things in World of Warcraft that scale really high to stuff like Universal. And at the time, Arthas did not, these threats didn't really exist before the expansion. There are arguments for if he scales to the gods in their world. There are a lot of people who agree that he does. There are people who don't. I honestly do not know the full extent of the scaling, but what I do know is that there are people who compare him to certain godlike beings within the World of Warcraft series, who are apparently fourth dimensional beings. So that's pretty cool, I guess. And a bunch of other stuff that honestly I cannot tell you because I am not super, super well versed. Nemesis, do you have anything to say?
I wouldn't really know. I'm generally more up to date on like the Sauron Universal stuff than the Lich King. I just know that I've heard people scaling him up to Universal. No one seems to argue against them, but I also don't know if it's just because there are no people who know better around.
Right. And
but
to
I
be
feel
honest,
like
I'm not fully sure either.
if it was a case of way in the future there was universal threats and maybe Arthas could scale, you could probably just argue that one time that Sauron survived an attack from Eru, just go, that's enough to say he's universal too, and just balance it out. I feel like, because it seems a bit... Of course, no, Sauron does not scale to Eru at all. He is... just no.
Right.
Clearly, he was not intended to die from that attack. But
clearly, but everyone else was.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Yes, because of course.
Because they needed Sauron.
Right.
If Sauron wasn't there, we wouldn't have a story.
Right, of course.
There's a reason
we gotta have this kind of
the biggest part of the whole franchise is called Lord of the Rings and not like The Hobbit.
Right, yeah. And so, just how powerful is the Lich King? How powerful is Arthas? Well, for one, he basically makes you, the player, kind of look like a complete jobber. During his fights, he can basically one-hit kill everyone in your party with
right, because
one attack.
He's a raid boss, I think.
True. Yes, he is a raid boss. And honestly, the best raid boss. No questions asked.
I don't even know what the competition is. Like, Deathwing?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I don't actually play World of Warcraft.
The only big Warcraft villains anyone seems to care about are the Lich King and Deathwing.
Right. But, I mean, regardless of what people care about, what people don't care about, he obviously scales above the player, which is quite significant, as you can scale player characters to a lot of things, but I don't know if that directly pits him into anything. But what we do know is that the Lich King is able to suppress the will of others to his whim. So he has domination. Please don't take that out of context. He is able to, just like Sauron, create storms. He, of course, has ice manipulation. He has darkness manipulation, blood manipulation. He has some summons, which is pretty cool. He has disease manipulation, so the whole plague thing he was trying to avoid apparently.
Right, yeah, because he took command of it.
Yes, he did.
Against his own people. That's what happened when he picked the sword up and he got corrupted. He led the plague.
Yeah. You kind of failed there, buddy.
Oops.
Not like, yeah. All right. So, ignoring that, so he, like he said, blood manipulation. He's got a lot of really crazy things. Oh yeah, also using the sword, he can also not just conjure up summons and all this stuff. He also has certain hacks. So, like we mentioned, he's able to draw the souls out of people who the sword kills, but it's also able to draw the power out of a being who possesses certain powers. So I guess power withdrawal in a way. Pretty nifty. Another really cool thing about the Lich King is, well, his music. Good God, have you listened to his music? Best tracks in all of World of Warcraft.
I mean, at the same time, if you listen to Sauron's theme is pretty terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. Dude, I hope all I want is for Arthas's theme to play subtly, all for it to pick up and pick up and pick up, and all you hear is the shrivels and cries of Mordor as Sauron approaches. Oh God, the music potential for this episode is huge, and I hope they don't screw it up.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh man, oh man. I don't know who's composing the music, but please, for the love of God, do a great job.
I think I would hope Brandon. I feel like this is more in Brandon's sort of sphere of expertise. At least
I think so too.
Yeah, like it feels more like a Brandon thing than a Werewolf thing.
Yeah, and if there's not battle vocals playing in the background, that would just be sad, but whatever.
Yeah, the battle vocals need to be Latin chanting.
Yes.
Or better,
yes.
Orcish chanting. Because Tolkien made that whole language.
Very true.
Or maybe even Elvish, like play it off like the song and the whole battle is like a tale that the elves are singing from across the ages because of how monumental it was. You could play it off like that as well.
All right, so let's get to his strength feats. So we know for a fact that he seems to have some form of telekinesis, apparently. That's what I've heard from a friend, where he was able to lift large stone structures, like some sort of rock formation. But I think one of the most impressive stuff is that he was able to kill several characters like Asgoth. He was able to compare to the champions of Azeroth. Wait, what? Azeroth. Okay. Looking through my own notes here, and he, of course, compares to the player characters. He has had to fight the jailer a few times, so that's pretty impressive, all things considered. And has defeated the creator of the Emerald Dream. And the Emerald Dream is a very powerful artifact within the realm of World of Warcraft. I actually, to be completely honest with you, I don't quite know how powerful that is. I would have to. I'm trying to remember how powerful that is, but if I remember correctly, there are people who claim that's planetary or something, maybe way higher. Maybe it's so confusing because people scale Arthas all over the place because he's either multi-continental, or he's planet, or he's universal, and it's like, well, which one is it?
Yeah, I've heard of scaling him to Deathwing, and Deathwing like created like worldwide disasters by waking up.
Right. Yeah, I think that's reasonable to scale to, but again, I'm not an expert at World of Warcraft, and I'm not even gonna try to pretend like I am. But I would, from what I've heard and from everything that I've seen, I think that's feasible. I'm not sure about like the whole fourth dimensional being things. But I've also heard that the Lich King actually also has faster than light speeds too, comparing to other characters within the World of Warcraft lore. Even having some reactionary speeds, I believe. So that's pretty notable within itself. And actually, I had a friend who told me that if the Lich King resides in his kingdom, I forgot what it was called, but it's the place where you actually have to fight the Lich King at. He's practically immortal, from what I understand. But, I mean, that's what my friend said, but I don't know how accurate information that is. Basically invincible or whatever, but I mean, I'm not 100% certain what on earth that's supposed to entail, because I've not played World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
But my friend has, and I've relied on him for most of my information. So, first of all, now that we're actually going to be comparing the two characters against one another, I think it's very like just from everything we've mentioned, right? Um, in terms of raw power, oh boy, because the Lich King is sort of all over the place here, and I'm not 100% certain where to place him. I'm really not.
I think in power,
So
they're either equal or Sauron is much stronger. It's one of those two options.
possibly in speed, they're pretty much equal. In speed, they're exactly equal. Funny enough,
Mm.
and you know, in terms of like the whole arguments in like a one-on-one scenario, you know, if we were to lowball, let's say Sauron against Lich King, right? Let Because Universal's apparently a thing now. You know, there are certain questions that people have that I feel like are very valid. Like, is the One Ring almost like a win con?
Right, the big question,
And
if Lich King killed Sauron, can the One Ring still win after the fact?
right. So this is an interesting question, but I think I have an answer. I think the answer is yes, because the One Ring can easily corrupt the mind of those who are already evil in nature. Saruman was basically immediately tranced into it. Now, the one counter argument I have heard against this claim is that, well, what about the Lich King's helmet? Wouldn't the Lich King's helmet be able to distract him away from the ring? Like in a scenario like this, like what would happen? And that's where things start to get fuzzy, because I'm apparently, according to several sources of mine, the Lich King is able to resist mind control or something along the lines. So I'm not sure if that means he has resistances to things like corruption. But then again, you know, he literally became the Lich King because he got corrupted,
Yeah.
and he was a human. So where does that stack? And then, of course, the other question people have is, you know, does Sauron have a way to get around the Lich King's soul hat? And I think, considering how Death Battle does things, speed outbeats hacks, right?
Right.
That's typically how things work. They're both at equal speed, so speed is kind of a non-factor. I really do think that the winner of this fight is going to be determined who can out-hacks who. And which is crazy because, you know, this is a fight about power, not about hacks, at least on the surface. But one of the big questions that a lot of people have, and I have, is can the Lich King draw out the soul of Sauron out of the One Ring? And so far, I haven't been able to find an answer to that.
I think
Because
the argument could really just be that he'd need to destroy the ring to get it out, because, like, it's in there. So you could
Right.
argue that just if he can't, if his like way of taking souls generally involves killing someone, there has to be some manner of destroying the thing containing the soul. Like, that would be the precedent.
another thing to mention here is that if we're taking Sauron at his prime, he's practically unkillable.
Right, because
Outside,
he's
yeah.
kind of a type of god.
Right. He's basically he has the physiology of well, one of the Valor.
Yeah.
He's Maya. He has Maya, excuse me. Maya physiology.
Yeah, and he is one of the
And
strongest.
oh, absolutely.
He's probably the strongest,
So
actually. Oh,
And not to mention, he has thousands and millions, possibly, of years of experience
Right,
over the Lich.
he's definitely more experienced than the Lich King.
The problem is like, will that experience carry him through? Because, and I think the answer may be yes, because there have been characters like the Lich King in Middle-earth prior, who's susceptible to corruption, and, like I mentioned, that one king, literally only 2 years with the ring, he straight up gets killed. And
I guess
the will of the ring could do something.
You would compare the potency of what Frostmourne and the One Ring have corrupted to determine what would overpower the other. And, like, from what I know, Frostmourne mostly corrupts humans, while the One Ring can corrupt basically deities.
Yes. Yeah, that is correct.
So you could argue that by virtue of that, it's just able to corrupt things a lot stronger than Frostmourne can.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is regardless of what kind of weapon Frostmourne is, it won't be able to destroy the One Ring. So I feel like that is obviously out of the table. So, I mean, and considering that I'm assuming that both these characters are going to be fighting in neutral territory, obviously I don't think the Lich King is going to be in his kingdom. So the whole invincibility thing or immortality thing, whatever, is kind of out the window. And as we both know, one doesn't simply walk into Mordor. So I don't think...
Waiting for that reference.
And plus... Yeah.
One does not simply destroy the One Ring, of course.
Yeah. And it's not like he would have any... And the Lich King would, considering Death Battle's rule set, would have no knowledge whatsoever on, how the One Ring works.
Yeah, I think
and even if he somehow found... Right, and it's not like... I don't think he would have any way to just suddenly Wikipedia it up inside that helmet of his and go, oh, you have to go to Mount Doom. May as well go there. All right, Google, take me to Mount Doom.
Yeah.
Take me to New Zealand. But, yeah, so clearly, I feel like there's just so much going on for Sauron here. There have been, people arguing on the side of the Lich King. However, a lot of that is very questionable because there are people who claim that, yes, the Lich King does scale to these very, very powerful characters within World of Warcraft who've done things like universal feats, but I have yet to see any evidence of that.
Right, I think the big argument for Lich King would be if you put him at Universal and you don't do it at Sauron, in which case Lich King's a lot stronger. You could argue that he could break the ring because saying the ring could survive Universal power could be considered a no limits fallacy. If you were to put him at Universal and put Sauron not Universal, yeah, Lich King probably just beats the crap out of him.
Yeah. In that sense, yeah.
Yeah, but if you were to put them at roughly even ground, it would come down to their abilities. In which case, I think the non-statistical advantages tend to sway more to Sauron. Obviously, experience goes to Sauron. Variety, I don't think Lich King's ever fought something quite like Sauron, but Sauron has fought stuff like Lich King.
Yes, that is correct. And actually, I feel like if the Lich King walked up to Sauron's door, I think the Lich King would want to assign him as middle manager or something. It's like, hey, Lich King, what's up? It's me, the devil.
Yeah. What else is there?
Yeah.
A lot of their hacks seem to balance out. Both can create illusions. Both can control elements with fire and ice.
Yeah.
Both can summon armies to their side.
Yeah, and it's not like the I have to say this real quick. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
And the whole disease thing, because there were some people saying, well, couldn't the Lich King kill Sauron with the disease? And the answer to that is no, because it's actually vulnerable to fire. And that's not
Yeah.
going to set very well.
Sauron's like a walking furnace sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea. Also, can disease really affect Maya?
Sauron? I don't think so.
Like, their people can like walk through the Valley of Death and like not be affected. Is the Ligma virus really going to be the thing that put him down?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I guess you could probably compare who's got the stronger army, but I really don't think it matters.
Oh, no.
I think
The funny thing is, even with the armies and Sauron being at a disadvantage, given the fact that he doesn't have a dragon, because, you know, they haven't been around these parts for thousands of years.
He's got the Fell Beasts. They're kind of like small dragons in the movie version.
True. However, like, just general armies, I'm pretty sure Sauron solos all of them, including the dragon.
I think the Lich King would
gonna...
take out most of Sauron's army too. I think the Witch King is the only thing.
Oh, yeah.
The Witch King of Angmar is the only thing that I think could put up a fight against the Lich King, reasonably.
Yeah. Absolutely. Actually, and speaking of, the Nazgul are in a way summonable characters by Sauron himself. And a funny question that I had that accidentally pissed somebody off, because I talked about the King of the Nazguls, and I said, well, what would happen if the King of the Nazguls came in? I thought he could only be killed by women. And he's like, and then I made the joke saying, well, I mean, look at his hair. I got really mad.
Oh, God. Obviously, the no man can kill me thing, that'd just be such a no limits fallacy if you said that only a woman could kill him, and like, he beats Darkseid because Darkseid's a guy.
Yeah, right. See, I think the Nazgul understands women's rights better than Blizzard did, obviously. Ouch. Man, we keep shooting shots at Blizzard, my god.
They deserve it.
I mean,
so it's okay.
They do deserve it. They absolutely deserve it. Good god. But I mean, in terms of I honestly, that's clearly a no limits fallacy. And people have been trying to throw that sort of thing at both of these characters, and I feel like it's kind of unnecessary and completely just stupid.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a way, you could. Some people have called the One Ring like a no limits fallacy, but that's not necessarily true. The whole argument is just so weird.
I think
because
if the Lich King isn't like so much more powerful, it's reasonable to say he can't destroy it without taking it to Mount Doom. If you were to say that his stats are relative to Sauron, I don't think Sauron could destroy the One Ring himself without throwing it into his own mountain.
Clearly wouldn't want to do that because, you know, I would kill him.
But, if you put the Lich King at Universal, sure, he's like as strong as Eru.
Yeah.
Eru could probably destroy the One Ring. But if you were to put them equal, I think it's fair to say that he would really struggle to destroy that without taking a long hike to a volcano.
I would have to agree. It's going to depend on where Death Battle decides to put the power level of the Lich King, because there's a lot of arguments for both sides,
and of course Sauron as well.
Yeah, of course, and clearly, you know, I personally, after looking into it some, you know, it's clear to me now that I've reread the Silmarillion that he's not universal level, and obviously people who haven't done their homework are just saying, oh, he's universal, this is an unfair match, without looking into the Lich King. But the interesting thing is, like, when you really look into this is a stupidly debatable match, but ultimately I do think Sauron wins.
Yeah, I think it's, thinking about it, it's those small advantages, right? The fact that Sauron's more experienced. You can argue skills about even, because Arthas has like a lot of like good training under his belt, but Sauron is using a corrupting weapon against someone who did get corrupted by a corrupting weapon.
Right.
General like body blows to Sauron aren't going to be as effective as vice versa, because you stab Sauron in the stomach, you're not really accomplishing much. But if Sauron clubbed Arthas in the gut, Arthas is gonna feel it, right?
Right.
Because Arthas, by and large, you kill Arthas's body, you kill Arthas, even if Frostmourne's still there, and Frostmourne is not corrupting Sauron. But if you like cut Sauron's head off, without Death Battle analyzes characters at their best, Sauron could easily just get back up if the ring is still attached to him, and the Lich King's not going to figure that out until possibly too late.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I'm thinking, because people, so far, with a lot of the conversations I've had, people are assuming that the Lich King just kind of magically finds out about the One Ring, but I mean,
I think he could figure out that it's the source of Sauron's power eventually, because it is a glowing golden ring with magical markings on it on Sauron's hand.
Right.
But initially, he's gonna think, take the head off, that'll do it, or cut him in half.
Right.
He's not gonna think, cut that finger off. And if he does figure that out, it's not necessarily easy to do. I'm pretty sure Sauron was like massively nerfed by like all the other gods when he was in that fight and Isildur cut his finger off. Like, he was nerfed at that point in time, even if the movie doesn't show it.
Yeah. And to be completely honest, I think if they were to just, not use both characters at their best, that would just be a little silly.
Yeah.
And of course, people not understanding how Sauron works are just wondering, wait, isn't that just the giant eye? So, you really got to read into the finer details to find out that this is just a really, really close match. Now, without the One Ring, Sauron would be screwed.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's very obvious.
Yeah.
But, with the One Ring, it's, to me, very clear that, like, Sauron is able to stand up against World of Warcraft's greatest threat.
Yeah.
And that's significant to me because, not only at least it won't be the jailer killing Arthas again this time.
Yeah.
It'll be a character people actually like.
I think likely they're gonna do like Wrath of the Lich King era Arthas versus Second Age Sauron, because like Second Age should have like all the capabilities of First Age, because there's really
actually that's not true. That's not true because when Sauron died in the First Age and then came back again, he actually lost some of his abilities and powers.
Right.
Because he did lose the transformation crap. He
doesn't need most of his First Age powers, but in the Second Age he's got the One Ring. He's got a ton of powers.
Right.
He's got all the best scaling. And his physical ability should not be weaker than First Age just because he's got the One Ring on his finger.
Right.
So
and it's gonna be the finger right here.
Because like if they did Third Age Sauron, you've got some wispy necromancer bastard who really doesn't do much fighting and just sort of floats around versus Arthas, or they could do First Age, in which case he does not have the most iconic thing about the character, which doesn't feel right. And obviously, you can't just combine all three ages in the same way you can't combine Alucard pre-Schrodinger and post-Schrodinger.
That's the thing I'm most concerned about, is like how, because in public there have been mentions that we're gonna be using Sauron, like we're looking into all versions of Sauron, but then I'm like, wait, so are y'all just compositing all his powers together? Like that's just weird.
Yeah, I don't really want to see a lot of the First Age powers. I don't want to see like Sauron turning into a werewolf in the middle of the fight.
Right. Yeah. And to be completely honest, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean, extremely irrelevant, because that's not even what the fight is about.
Yeah, that would be like doing like Prince Arthas Menethil and not Arthas as the Lich King.
Right.
And also, he wasn't called Sauron in the First Age, was he? He was known by a different name.
He was known by many names, but during the First Age, I think he did go by a different name for quite a while until he decided to have a name change, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Again, trying to remember what that name is. However,
Starts with a G, doesn't it?
I think so.
G,
I think
G,
so.
G. My mind went to Gothmog, but that's two completely different characters. What was it? Yeah, my mind's still telling me Gothmog, and that's so wrong. That's not it at all.
Right. Oh, and the other, this is because like if they fight in neutral territory, the Lich King is already at a major disadvantage because he relies, from what I was told by my friend, shout outs to you, Light Drag. I don't know if I said that already. I don't know, but his power seems to be drawn from his kingdom,
Right.
and so if we're fighting in neutral territory, I think he's already at a disadvantage.
Yeah, of course, we could also argue, what if you were to put his kingdom right in,
Right next to Mordor.
yeah, right at Mordor's doorstep. Like, what would happen there? And you would have Arthas at full power.
Yeah, see, that's another thing I'm wondering. Like, are they fighting in neutral territory? Are they doing that? Like, how are they going to handle that? I don't know.
I feel like it would be most fair if it was in neutral. I mean, I could also see for the fight, it starts in media res. Like, you've just got, like, hordes of douchebags, like, clashing into each other, and you just see Sauron and the Lich King marching onto the battlefield. Like, that'd be a very
alternatively, but Nemesis, you're forgetting the best battlefield of all. Out in the middle of nowhere in the desert.
Right, they could just be in the middle of nowhere in the desert.
Yeah, it's like
what a waste of a high fantasy setting.
And then they could the Lich King could walk up to Shao Kahn, and he can go, "Move, bitch."
Get out the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of which, how is the animation gonna be for this episode? Because we just had a 3D episode.
Well, Jason Michael was solo Devil Artemis.
Yeah.
So it could be that,
it was
and
solo.
it was in SFM too. So the Blender team, which doesn't include Devil Artemis much to my memory or at all, could easily have been working on this as well, giving us the second instance of two back-to-back 3D episodes, which would be...
Yeah.
I mean, we got that as well with Bride and Excalibur, which came right before James Bond John Wick.
Oh, that's true.
So
that is true.
It's probably going to be like that, and I'm hopeful, right? I don't want it to be in sprites. Luis said on Twitter that he was animating for the episode, but he was not using sprites. And I can't picture a sprite episode where Luis isn't doing anything with sprites. And considering the sprite backgrounds are made in Blender, to my memory, I'm fairly certain that we're getting it in Blender.
Yeah.
And it'd be a shame if we didn't. I really like the idea of, like, the Sauron towering over Arthas, because let's be real, Sauron in that armor, in the Jackson and the game versions, and
he's
Lego,
tall.
he's huge. Like, he's like twice the size of any regular bloke. Like, he towers over Arthas.
I don't know how tall Arthas is. From what I understand, he's like 6 foot.
I imagine he'd be in the 6 foot range, while Sauron...
so it's like 12 feet tall.
Yeah. I would assume...
Crazy.
I would assume he's like 9 feet tall. Looking at him, like, around 3 meters tall. Seems right to me.
Goro versus Machamp, then.
I'll look up Lich King's height. 6'5", but he's sometimes portrayed as 8 feet tall, but...
Weird.
Generally, it seems that everyone's more set on, like, 6'3", and he's just sometimes framed as really big. But
6'3"? I'm almost as tall as him. What the heck?
That's funny. I'm not tall, though. He's a lot taller than me. I would hope I really would prefer Sauron being bigger. Like, I think that dynamic is a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I think, that would make the most sense.
It also makes Arthas look like he has much bigger balls if he's just walking up to this guy, towering over him, and just giving him the hands.
Actually, I just remembered a feat of Arthas's that I forgot to bring up. He can just stare at you, and apparently you can die or like freeze or something.
I really don't know if that's gonna work.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, like I said,
I do not.
the Maya can go through like the lands of death, right? And they're just unaffected,
Right.
while regular people would just sort of die.
Oh yeah, obviously. I just brought that up because I thought it was funny to bring up.
Yeah.
But yeah, given everything we've talked about, unless they give the Lich King like extremely high scaling to other World of Warcraft gods, which I'm not saying is out of the realm of possibility, but given what I have heard from friends of mine and whatnot, I think the highest the Lich King scales in terms of raw power is, as at the very worst, is stuff like multi-continental, and average is like planet, sort of, maybe even star level. I'm not exactly sure the context of the whole star level stuff, but again, to anybody who has an argument for that, feel free to write it down in the comments or whatever. But there are definitely universal level arguments, but I don't know if those are really viable or not.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you can
But
put it the other way and just say Sauron survived the blast from Eru. So what if it
Yeah,
doesn't make
but
sense? Well, because
but the problem is that people scale that to city level. They don't really scale that to universal
yeah, but it's Eru who
because
did it.
yes, and then that's a whole can of worms in itself.
Like, that's the thing. I think you could easily, because like it seems like a lot of the Lich King arguments sort of need to like ignore context or make it like, oh, Lich King was always as powerful as these guys, which means that even though you get stronger after you fight him, you're not suddenly stronger than the future threats, which are supposedly weaker than the Lich King, and that seems like it would narratively be a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Now the Lich King does have some advantages over Sauron for sure.
I think
For one,
the power absorption is probably the big one to me.
yeah, power absorption. However, as to how much he can do that, I don't know. Because if the gods can, nerf Smash Brothers Brawl Meta Knight over here, to a recent decent level to where humans can slay off his arm and he just implodes, at least according to the Peter Jackson films. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fun things, but I think, like we've mentioned before, even playing field, I do think Sauron's gonna take this. And but the Lich King is not going down without a fight. Definitely not.
Yeah.
But in terms of like beyond just the episode, man, as exciting as this is, there are certain things that really worry me about this episode. I have to say that now, and that is how they're going to treat both characters. Because Death Battle is a very jokey show.
Yeah.
Like poking fun. Because they're like, because they can look at Arthas, they can probably make a few Darth Vader jokes at him here and there, and then say, oh, he's got daddy problems just like me, and it's like, oh god damn it.
I'm not expecting dad jokes anymore. At least that kind of boomstick dad jokes.
Yeah, boomstick dad jokes. But yeah,
Sauron, I expect jokes at the big flaming eyeball. He got his finger cut off and died. He lost to some hobbits. Yeah. That kind of joke.
Yeah, to some hairy midgets.
Yeah. I expect
but
that.
I mean, like, oh yeah, I just hope that they give respect to the two franchises. Considering what they're working with, I've heard public statements from people who've worked on this episode that they are very worried about the public reaction towards it, which is very interesting because I guess they're referring to the Tolkien fans
Yeah.
in particular,
I mean, that
which
tells.
is
It
interesting.
could tell me that they're going to have Lich King win, but they could also be baiting us with that.
I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I will say this. As a Death Battle fan, all of my most wanted episodes have been major stinkers.
Well,
And I pray to
what have they been?
God. So, believe it or not, Mewtwo versus Shadow,
I can believe it. That's a good matchup.
Sub-Zero versus Glacius.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah.
That's extra painful because that's not even necessarily a bad episode as it is a non-episode. It's nothing. It's nothing as an episode.
God, people in the Death Battle community know me for loathing that episode. Like I still need to make a video of like top 10 best and worst. But I can tell you right now, Sub-Zero versus Glacius is in in my top 5 for the worst episodes ever.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's not a good
that
episode.
pains me. It pains me because that was actually my most wanted episode.
Yeah.
But long story short, I've had a really long history of being shat on, like for my favorite episodes. So whenever something really exciting happens for me, like something I've always wanted, I'm super cautious because I'm like, wait a minute, this might be the curse again. This may suck. But I pray that this is not the case. I'm actually going in this very optimistically, especially considering how amazing season 9 has been.
Yeah.
You may have a differing opinion from me, but so far, from what I've watched, Silver versus Trunks has been my favorite episode.
I don't think I'd say it's my favorite, but I do love it quite a lot.
Yeah. The music, God damn it, that music.
Yeah,
I've been listening to it non-stop.
I really like Over the Hedge of Tomorrow.
Yes, I do too, God. But long story short, if this episode, if Sauron versus the Lich King can match that quality, and of course I know like Trunks' analysis wasn't that great. I can acknowledge that. But like the volume and the scale of like the episode itself, like the fight, the music, just every bit and more of how this is treated as well as say Trunks versus Silver, or like Omni-Man versus Homelander, or just some of the best episodes we've had. Holy shit. I will be so happy. Like the Lord of the Rings and World of Warcraft were a long time coming, and it's a shock that it took us this long.
Yeah.
And it's a shocker that it's these two.
Well,
but,
I'm not shocked that the first Warcraft rep is Lich King. I feel like the only ones that could have predated him would have been Deathwing or Thrall. But
that's true. That is true.
It really feels like Gandalf versus Dumbledore is a matchup they would have done in like season 1 or season 2.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it feels like Aragorn versus Jon Snow is something they would have done during the massive, massive peak of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
because like the books were basically done like up to that point. I don't think they've had too many more since the peak. So obviously, I think they're still going. I wouldn't know for sure, but I think
they are still going.
There was enough for Jon Snow.
But the fact that this is like the big kind of like legacy sort of fantasy fight that I've been waiting for, like that's a huge deal to me. You know, Lord of the Rings has meant a lot to me personally. Like I've grown up with it. My dad is the biggest connoisseur for Lord of the Rings I've ever known. And you know what? And I told him about this episode, and well, good news. This will be yet again an episode he's interested in watching. So fond memories of watching Death Battle with my dad. The first one he's ever seen was He-Man versus Lion-O. He loved both characters, and he thought it was pretty fun.
Goated
yeah, for real.
Yeah,
I agree. It's actually my favorite season premiere. Funny enough.
It's definitely one of them for me. I love He-Man Lion-O a lot. I think it's great.
So the fact that he's getting that my dad is getting a battle that of two franchises he grew up with, and it's not just my dad, it's also my friends, because a lot of them played World of Warcraft. Their dads have played World of Warcraft. Their dads have read Lord of the Rings. So, and our whole friend group has been like super super hyped for this. So for me, to have this opportunity, to have this awesome moment happen in my personal friend group, and to have things like this just go on, just with this, like, damn,
Yeah.
thanks. Thank you, Death
You're
Battle.
welcome. Oh, okay. I thought you were thanking me.
Oh, well, thank you too. No, especially. But I mean, like, seriously, Death Battle. I don't know if you guys hear or like watch these videos, but I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Despite how critical I've been about the show, I love it. I still love it. But like, I just want to let you guys know that I'm very thankful that you guys are finally opening up and letting these two franchises come in.
Yeah.
It means a big deal.
Technically, this is two book characters fighting, because technically Arthur's debuted in a novel, which is
and that's epic.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
There've been more book characters in this season than the rest of the series
Death
prior,
Battle combined,
which is understandable because there's only one prior to this season.
Right, and there's so many more that can happen. Now, I know that there are some characters that some people are kind of weirded out by, but I know that there are a lot of book characters that deserve a chance. There's Percy Jackson. I know a lot of people really want him. Yeah. Percy Jackson. Captain Underpants.
I just mentioned Jon Snow, but there's one.
Oh yeah, Jon Snow. But I mean,
from A Song of Fire and Ice.
True. There's a few other ones that I'm just trying to think about, but like, when you look at it, and I'm about to get a little philosophical here, but when you think about it, books are an underappreciated medium.
Absolutely.
People play video games and they get immersed. Back in the day, all you had were text and books. So the fact that we're getting two characters very well versed within literature. Well, I mean, yeah, Arthas counts because he was first introduced in the book. But I mean,
more or less, he is technically from a game franchise. So.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, regardless, it's still amazing to me that we're getting more book franchises into this.
Oh, Paul from Dune.
Oh yeah, Paul from Dune.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna throw in a little bit of a self-insert here, but I know there's a certain character that I've been a writer of that I know people want on Death Battle. So that's, if the opportunity ever arises, that would be hype as hell. And if you're wondering who, that's Soya Tape, but I mean, that's a whole different can of worms. But guys, Soya Tape versus Martian Manhunter. Okay, moving on. No, but having books is awesome in Death Battle, and I really hope we get an opportunity for more. I really do.
Yeah,
because there's untapped potential. Absolutely untapped potential. Because like Frankenstein,
Yeah, Frankenstein.
Sherlock Holmes could happen.
Yeah. Dracula, obviously.
Dracula. Yeah. What else? There's so many. But Wizard of Oz. There are some people let's
get Dorothy versus Alice. Come on.
Yeah. It could. You never know.
That would be so dumb, but I would love that a lot. They're not even like that special. They're just like two regular girls, but it sounds so funny.
It does, yeah. But I mean, just the whole prospect of them opening up towards literature is quite awesome.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a good gateway towards that. And who knows? Maybe people will finally get the characters they want out of this. So the fact that we're diving into a medium that's very unexplored by Death Battle is freaking sweet.
Yeah. I think the big
But
one for the community is Percy Jackson. He's the one that's
oh
like,
yeah,
requested
dude.
the most. Aside from like other Lord of the Rings and other Harry Potter characters, it feels like Percy Jackson's the big one ever since James Bond's been used, at least. James Bond was like at the same level, but then they used him. So now it's Percy Jackson's domain up there.
Percy Jackson absolutely needs to show up sometime. But the question is, who? Because I know people say Harry Potter, but I mean, do we really want Harry Potter to show up again?
I'm not really
No
interested.
offense.
If there's the only Harry Potter character I care about in Death Battle is Dumbledore.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunately obvious that Gandalf wins that fight.
I mean,
I mean, from my understanding,
from what I know, there is some contention there with like speed and death hacks.
interesting.
With like the idea of like Gandalf doesn't tend to have like super high speed because like generally on Middle
Right.
Earth he's just like a guy.
Yeah,
Admittedly, I think
yeah.
there's something about how Gandalf cannot use his full power against like residents of Middle Earth, so he's only allowed to use it against like the Durin's Bane, Sauron, and theoretically Dumbledore if he was to show up. But the idea that like,
Sure.
Gandalf's like body as Gandalf the White could be susceptible to a Avada Kedavra. So that would be the argument. But I wouldn't complain if Gandalf won. I mean, I like Gandalf a lot.
Not at all. Yeah,
But,
me too. But yeah, goodness, wow, what a revolution, dude. This has been fun. This has been seriously
Yeah.
fun, and I am so excited for this. And I
Yeah.
hope everything for this episode goes well.
And of course, like I should say, I'm a huge fan of like Middle Earth in general as well. Like I love Lord of the Rings books and movies. I remember reading the books when I was in primary school, and they were just great. I read The Hobbit after. I did an English essay on the Silmarillion once. Fucking couldn't remember what it was about. But I did it. And I
Just remembered another literature character. Sorry,
Hmm?
Beowulf.
right, yeah. Beowulf. I like flip flop between whether I prefer Beowulf versus Cuchulainn or Beowulf versus Conan, but both would make me very happy.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. That would be super fun.
I know that people like Cuchulainn versus Lancelot, but that really I don't get it. Like I've read a lot of Arthurian legend. Unless there's something in the Ulster cycle that I don't know that somehow makes Cuchulainn very similar to Lancelot, I really don't understand. Lancelot is kind of a bumbling idiot whose only skill is that he can kick the shit out of you really well.
Fair.
Like there's one point in his like introductory story, Lancelot, Knight of the Cart, where Gawain gives him like a mule, because he's like Lancelot's riding with like a barely alive mule, and Gawain's like, do you need a hand there? And he's like, yeah, thanks. So he gives him the mule, and then like 3 minutes later, he follows Lancelot and finds the mule's already somehow managed to die. Like,
What? Are you serious?
Lancelot's just kind of an idiot, and he spends most of that story riding in a cart being treated like trash, and the only time he ever succeeds is when he's kicking the shit out of someone.
That is so sad.
Yeah, like Lancelot, despite his image as like a perfect knight, he's really just sort of a bumbling buffoon who happens to be really good at fighting. And fucking...
Then Lancelot... Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, he had the affair with Guinevere.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. That was...
Can you believe that Sonic the Hedgehog made a game out of that?
I don't understand their choices of who became who.
I don't either. Bro.
Like, why is Silver Galahad? Galahad is like the most holy, virtuous knight. There's literally a point in the Vulgate cycle where Satan himself gets up to attack Galahad, and he's like, nah, this guy's too holy for me to affect. I'm just gonna leave. Like, why is that Silver?
No, that makes sense.
And also, Galahad is Lancelot's son, so like Silver is, I guess, Shadow's son in that story.
Fits the fan fiction.
Which kind of makes that one Sonic 06 scene turn into familial abuse.
Ouch.
You know, the kick in the back of the head.
Yeah, yeah.
There is actually of note, an interesting like a theme with this fight, because Sauron obviously is very evocative of Satan, you know, like
Yeah,
very
yeah.
clearly there's parallels. The whole point of Sauron, like in the book, he's never described in The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. His true form's never described, and Tolkien only ever did like one watercolor, like of a vague shadow that could be Sauron. And
Right.
the point is, he represents like the purest form of evil, at least the view of evil that Tolkien went with. Because the Witch King
You can
also
thank
represents
C.S.
that.
Lewis for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Chronicles of Narnia. There's got to be a matchup involving that. There's got to be.
Yeah, you're right. The witch
witch?
versus Elsa.
That no. No.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I take like the witch, like this is the Wicked Witch over that or something. But
Oh yeah, I mean obviously.
So obviously.
There was a topic about that too.
Oh, there is.
Somebody brought her up the other day. I remember because someone was like, "Couldn't she take on Sauron?" I went, "Ha ha ha ha."
No.
No.
But Sauron very very obviously takes a lot after the devil. And to an extent like the likes of Bram Stoker's Dracula and mythological character I forget, but like there's obviously the parallels of Sauron and the devil, and Arthas very obviously is a sort of dark twist on King Arthur. Like that's very blatant to me. Obviously the name Arthur, right? Very similar. He's got the special sword that sort of defined his path moving forward with the unnamed sword in the stone and Frostmourne, and you've got the fact that he was literally trained by a relative named Uther, which is literally the name of Arthur's like father. Like Arthas is very obviously taking a lot from King Arthur in a sort of a different path. So essentially, this fight is in a way King Arthur versus Satan, which is a common theme.
Yeah, pretty much.
A common theme,
or if you wanna. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
A common theme in Arthurian legend is the conflict between the Knights of the Round Table and the influence of Satan, of the devil.
Yeah, actually, now that you're bringing it up, this fight, or if you want to be an ass about it, you could say this is medieval Darth Vader versus the devil from the Bible.
I mean, you could. But yeah, like that's that parallel. So in a sense, you could argue it would be more thematically appropriate for Arthas to win. At the same time, I think the most probably thematically appropriate ending is Arthas kills Sauron, and then he picks up the ring, and the ring makes him toss aside Frostmourne and the helmet, and turn into the new Sauron.
That would if that somehow, but would that count as a win for Sauron, or would that count as a win for Arthas? That's confusing.
I think the problem with the corruption, I guess, is like how long it takes. Technically, Sauron wins because in the end, he's going to be the one taking control of that body. But in the short run, technically, Sauron's body is dead and Arthas is alive. But Arthas is going to just sort of die. He's going to stop being Arthas. In the same way, what happened to Sigma, but a lot slower.
Oh, that's true. Wait a minute, but wait. So what about the ending of World of Warcraft? When he took off the helmet, didn't he immediately get out of the trance?
I think so. But then that would be a good thing for Sauron, because if he just makes him throw the helmet off, he's got nothing stopping him anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking.
Hell, imagine like Arthas cuts off the hand, but then right as that happens, Sauron like hammers him in the head and sends the helmet flying off him.
Yeah. How would that?
Well,
it's like, oops, lost all my powers.
I could feel him like, I could see that happening. He knocks the helmet off, but he also loses the ring. But as a result, now that Arthas is no longer under the influence of all that, he notices the ring and hears it beckoning to him, and basically forces him to pick it up. And you just see you could just see like the eye.
That would be
like Arthas blinks,
Eye of Sauron.
and between the blink, you see the eye of Sauron in his eyes.
And then you can get an Akuma versus Shao Kahn death. It's like, get back on my ring, boy.
Yeah.
I've been in the full Hooper's. No, but actually, now that you're bringing it up, that would be a sick way to end. There's so many cool ideas of how the fight could end. Like, there's so many awesome ideas for, like, the death, but yeah, so many endless possibilities, but in the end, this is in the hands of Death Battle and how they're gonna handle the situation.
This is also assuming Sauron wins, because very easily they could just say, Sauron caps a multi-continental from scaling to Ancalagan the Black and stuff, like threatening the world.
Right.
And then the Lich King scales to planetary, so that combined with the ability to drain Sauron's energies a bit to weaken him, would be enough for a win.
But we did establish that Sauron did destroy a sword with a Cimmeral in it.
Right,
So
and if
I don't think
they
we're
were to
gonna
use
overlook
that, if they were to use that, if they were to have that, they could then probably argue Sauron's just a lot stronger, but I think they could also easily argue that both would just be universal, potentially, and go, so potentially their power outputs are even, but then everything sort of swings into the way of X or Y.
So and so, yeah.
So
I feel like that may be where it lies.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I personally, from what I know, I think Sauron should win. I am leaning a bit to saying he will win, because I think they will focus more on abilities than stats, just due to how vague a lot of the stuff with these two can be. And I think when it comes down to abilities, that Sauron's are just better, unless they consider the power absorption really so much better than what Sauron has that it invalidates like the much more powerful corruption and stuff like that. And
that's going to be a very interesting thing to find out, because we know that the Lich King can draw power out of the player. So, I mean, are they going to try and assess the character that the players play as into some sort of power scaling?
Yeah.
And then like try to assume that, because that would be good lord, if they did that, that would just be really nuts. But I don't know if they will do that or not, or like if it's kind of weird, because the Lich King, as we've previously mentioned, like it came before the whole Universal stuff. And despite the fact that there are people who argue in the favor of the Universal stuff, I am curious how Death Battle's going to tackle that.
Yeah, they could just say like Sauron scales to the ones who did the song, so he would downscale from their collective universal power, and then Lich King, very strong, downscale from the gods, and then instead of saying they're both universal, say they both downscale from universal to an unknown degree. So for fairness, they could do that, because I think when it comes to scaling to the song, that is the best you could do for Sauron. Is that maybe he just downscales from one of them who did the song and combined their universal. Argue that.
Yeah.
In which case, that would probably be just consistent with the smashing of the sword thing.
Right. And, of course, with the power of the One Ring.
Yeah.
Because diamonds are a girl's best friend, or in this case, a ring is Satan's best friend.
Yeah. I think
I think that's a wrap, honestly, because there's really not much to talk about.
Well, not anymore. We went through it. It's been about 2 hours.
Goodness. Woo!
Which is about... It's not really that crazy for I guess it's crazy for a prediction that it would get to 2 hours without a lot of off-topic stuff.
True.
And I guess like for the fight, I'm really just looking for the right like tone, like make the two both seem incredibly imposing, make it feel like you've got two just unstoppable forces against each other. If they use the armies, I want it as a backdrop. I would be okay with just a bunch of like generic orcs and like generic whatever Lich King's army is, skeletons. I don't know.
If they do use armies, I am seriously hoping they actually interact with it, kind of like the background props or like the zombies from certain episodes.
Yeah.
Trying to remember, what was that one episode? It
Leon
was
Frank?
yes, Leon versus Frank. Thank you.
Yeah. I would also be okay if like there's like some of Arthas try to attack Sauron and Sauron just like steps on them on his way to Arthas.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really want the David and Goliath like effect, because even if Arthas is sometimes portrayed as tall as Sauron, I don't want him to be the same height. I prefer the idea of like Sauron's blows being like much slower but a lot heavier, and Lich King like is stumbling when he has to block them because Sauron's just huge.
Right. Actually, another interesting question that I have, it's kind of a stupid question, but I think it's a valid one. Will they give both these characters voices?
I think they will. Okay, I think they will, because the Lich King does have a voice, right?
Yeah, he does.
I think he's voiced by Patrick Seitz.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yeah. So they're probably gonna have the Lich King talk, and I think Sauron will not talk as Sauron, but they will have something with the ring where you'll hear like the whispers of Sauron's influence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that will technically be Sauron talking. I think that's how they'll do it. Or at least that's how I would probably do it, and how I would prefer it. Lich King has a couple.
I just realized we didn't even bring up Gollum.
We brought him up briefly.
Very briefly. But, like, I think it's very... I guess we could bring him up just for the sake of how influential the ring was, because he was, at one point, like a subspecies of hobbit.
Yeah.
And over that his transformation is, like, a factor of over 500 years.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that he's still alive, it's like, how the hell? But I mean, a total non-factor in something that is so, obviously not about the guy, but it's still funny nonetheless, because this battle involves his precious loss.
Yeah.
But I mean, good lord, wow. I mean,
wow.
I don't know what. Wow, right? World of Warcraft. I don't know what else to say. I don't. But I am so excited for this episode. And honestly, I'm so happy that this episode gave me the opportunity to come on the show. Never thought that would happen until way later.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, it was fun to have you.
Well, thank you. It was awesome being on here and being able to help give you guys some insight onto both characters.
Yeah, frankly, mostly Sauron, given I'm certain
mostly Sauron.
Of the like 12,000 people that are going to watch this, maybe like 4 of them know who he is based on how the community responded.
Right, yeah. God, that kind of saddened me, but you know what? I'm going to have my fun. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. I'm just hoping the episode is good. I'm hoping the episode's good.
Yeah, me too. Oh god, it better be. If it's not, that would be. Oof.
Yeah, please be 3D. If it is 3D, I hope they don't use the Heroes of the Storm model for Arthas, because I've been looking at the Heroes of the Storm and World of Warcraft designs like next to each other. Ooh. Heroes of the Storm did not make him look good.
Oh, that's true.
He's like got his face showing the whole time, which really doesn't have the same impact as just the dark void. He's like a lot brighter in color. He almost looks a bit more squat and chibi-esque as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would want something far better.
Yeah, something evocative of
Um,
the original. Do you think they're gonna have Sauron go into the Elvish form from the game during this fight?
Probably not. He was created an illusion. Oh, I just got some last second information about the Emerald Dream.
No.
So apparently, there's a source saying that some believe that Freya wove the Emerald Dream into being from nothing. Others claim that this strange piece has always existed in some form, a dream born from Azeroth's slumbering world soul. I don't know what any of this means. It is said that Freya tapped into this realm and molded what would become known as the Emerald Dream as a way to commune with the Titans.
Hmm.
So, seems like I don't know. That's interesting.
Now, how much exactly does that help?
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you because, I've heard, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of different things about the Lich King before, and this is just gonna go back full circle again, because then it's like, oh, gee, did we scale him wrong in here? But I think we've already answered that, so
Yeah.
I don't want to circle back to that.
I mean, at
But
the end of the day, I think it as I said, it's just going to come down to how they scale them. Like, because there's no precedent, and I don't know what they're going to buy, what they're going to go with, especially for Lich King. I think the Sauron thing with the stars is probably very blatant. But
Yeah.
who knows with Lich King as well. And if they'll even use that claim, because they might be like it's hyperbole or something like that. But yeah, I don't know where they're going to scale them. I think if they're relative, that Sauron should win. I think if Sauron has the advantage, he should win, obviously. And if Lich King has a big power advantage, Lich King wins.
And yeah, I goodness, I don't have anything else to say, frankly.
Have you ever listened to Blind Guardian's Nightfall in Middle Earth album?
I swear I have, but it's been a hot minute.
You definitely should. I love that album.
Link it to me. I'll give it a listen.
It's a classic power metal album about the Silmarillion.
Oh, that sounds dope. I need to listen to that.
I wish I could play it.
Right, but of course, copyright.
Yeah.
Well, I'll listen to it after.
Yeah.
Definitely listen to it after. If you can link me that, I would. Ooh, I'll listen to that.
Let me see if I can
But
find
before the wrap up, I will say this. If y'all have not watched the Hobbit from 1976, that is honest to goodness one of my favorites. And I love the intro song.
I'll say if you haven't played Lego Lord of the Rings, you're missing out on life. You should. It's one of my favorite Lego games. It's like up there with like the original Lego Marvel, Lego DC Supervillains, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, that lot. I love Lego Lord of the Rings. I wish I could play it, but I haven't got it on any console that I can actually play right now because I don't know where my PS3 copy's gone.
This is a really deep cut, but if you're not bothered to watch all of the Lord of the Rings films, look up a certain video called The Lord of the Rings in 1 minute. I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Don't use that for power scaling. That's definitely not going to help you.
No. I'm just saying that because it's that video is so old. It's one of the oldest Lord of the Rings videos on YouTube because it was somewhat around the hype, and around when YouTube started, Blockbuster put out these videos, or Hollywood Video, excuse me. Hollywood Video would put out these really silly shorts to advertise new movies called the Hollywood Videos in the 60 Seconds, and they made one on Lord of the Rings, and it is just so funny to me. I don't know why, because everyone's talking really fast, things are happening so rapidly, and my favorite scene from that whole stupid video is when they're Gandalf's like, hey, nice ring. And Frodo's like, yeah, and it's cursed, really. Does it have a script of ancient evil? Yeah, it says here, Brandon and Tanya forever. No, under that. Oh, here it is. It fell. Please return to Sauron, Lord of Darkness. And he's like, oh, that's bad. The Lord of Darkness probably has evil henchmen looking for her right now. And you hear, who is it? And there's this guy, the Nazgul going, evil henchman. Please, it's a funny video. It's an old video, but a classic. As for World of Warcraft, if you value your sanity, I don't know if anybody will want to play the actual games, but I will say, absolutely go watch the trailer for Wrath of the Lich King. One of the most godlike trailers for video game history ever. There's no contest.
Oh god, I hope they don't have a Leroy Jenkins reference. I just realized that was World of Warcraft.
Oh, geez. But I can't... And then I think Wrath of the Lich King also has had... Yeah, there's several novels around it. If you want to read those, go ahead. And there's a bunch of cutscenes from the game. Definitely give those a watch because they're all very entertaining. And if you haven't listened to the soundtrack, please go give that a listen. Some of the best music I've heard in video games. That's not over exaggerating. Like Arthas, My Son, is a really good track. Godlike.
While we're at it, completely unrelated, go listen to Ezio's Family from Assassin's Creed 2. It's a really good theme. That has nothing to do with anything. I just wanted to bring it up.
Just wanted to bring it up. And on the topic of having... So, now that we have Satan on a technical level, Death Battle, I want my Larry Boy versus Bible Man. Make it happen. Please.
That would certainly be interesting. But what if they just do Larry the Cucumber versus Pickle Rick?
Well, that would be kind of dumb, because...
Well, yeah.
Larry Boy versus Bible Man makes way more sense, though.
Well, yeah.
Because it's like... Pickle Rick, that's just Rick, though.
No,
that's
but he's a
just
pickle.
Rick.
It's a pickle.
Oh, Lord have mercy. But good God. Wow. I mean, oof. Who knows? It's like religions. And to some people, World of Warcraft is a religion.
Oh God.
the one South Park episode. Oh, bother. Well, I think it's fair to say we shouldn't drag this video on for much longer, but this has been a real freaking fun time.
So if you've made it this far, give us in the comments hashtag. You can decide.
Yeah. Who won? Who's next? You decide.
My God.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Well, no, this has been really fun, and thanks for sitting through all of this, guys. Hopefully, we've piqued your interest in Lord of the Rings and World of Warcraft, giving you some insight as to who we believe is gonna win. I'm not gonna put any bets, but I am gonna say I'm rooting for both of them. In my heart. I know.
That's fair. I'm definitely rooting for Sauron though.
I'm rooting for them both, but I'm betting Sauron for sure.
I am rooting and very softly betting Sauron, and I gotta say that very softly.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, Lord of the Rings is quite vague in certain ways, and so is World of Warcraft, it seems. So, with that being said, I guess that counts as a goodbye.
Yeah.
So, see you, everyone. You can go into the description. What links do you want me to put in the description for you?
For me. Okay. Well, I guess it's self-plug-in time. Well, I have a Twitter, Windindi, of course, and that's how you say it, everybody, because nobody gets my name right, but that's okay.
I assume everyone calls you Windindi.
Yes, Windindi or Windy or something. It sounds like a magician name almost. But I am. So most people know me for currently being the developer of an upcoming video game known as Clay Fighter Resculpted. So that's mostly what I'm doing right now. I'm also the author for Journals of the United. So if that piques your interest, give that a look. But you can find this all and more on Twitter, and I also have my own personal Discord where we discuss Death Battle stuff as daily as I possibly can. Sometimes I forget, and well, trying to make it more active kind of makes it whole fun. But that's it.
All right, you'll find links to his stuff down there. Obviously you're on my channel, so I don't need to link that, but you can go support me on Patreon if you want. You can go to my you can access my Patreon only Discord and make me say really stupid stuff at the end of videos, which seems to be all everyone wants to do with their money on Patreon. Yeah. Well, I mean, I got videos that are Patreon exclusive, but definitely I think people care more about making me say really dumb shit. They tried to make the ending of Jason Michael's review into a fucking musical, so.
Oh my gosh.
I had 3 different singing based things there. One of which was in Latin and one of which was an epic rap battle of history.
It's hilarious, dude. That's funny. I need to watch that. Yeah, so please go support that man. Support Nemesis.
I would love that. But with that said, goodbye everyone. I'll see you next video.
Bye-bye.